Howdy folks, how you doing? My name is Pineapple. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about CORES in Red Dead Online. Now with the summer update coming so fast, I know a lot of people are going to be picking up this game for either the first time or re-picking up an account that they have maybe an hour or two of playtime on total, and with that there's going to be a lot of people who are just confused about how this game works. You know, what are these CORES? There's 3 different CORES that you have to keep maintained. What do they do? Why do they do certain things? How do you keep them more maintained? How do you level them up? Because when you start, for lack of a better word, they're just crappy. There's nothing else to say about it. They're just really bad. So you need to level them up. How do you level them up? How do you maintain them? How do you make sure you keep them in tip-top or golden shape? And we're going to be talking about all that today. I'm going to go ahead and say here, if you're level 45 or over, you probably don't need this video, just because this video is really aimed at newer players. I know I said that just a second ago, but I want to be clear here because I know some people are going to be like, I knew all of this. Yes, some of you will definitely, most of you will probably know all of this. However, I do want to, I don't want to just cater to all the advanced people here. We are a channel, we are inclusive, and I want somebody who's new to the game to feel just as comfortable as we do. So, without further ado, we are going to start talking about CORES. Now, all of these correlate with food intake, right? So food is something you find in the world of Red Dead Online. The only things you can drink do something for your CORES as well. There is some moonshine and things like that are technically real drinks. But think of them as like potions, right? Think of them as totally not part of what we're talking about, because in general, food is where you're going to want to manage your CORES from. Now, if you're fighting in a PvP sense, that's when you would down a tonic or a potion. I think it's an easier way for newer players to think about it. They are called tonics, they're not called potions. Don't call them potions to your friends, but they're definitely tonics. You'll look silly, but just as an easy way to understand it, they're kind of like potions. Now, as far as CORES go in general, they, like I said earlier, all correlate with food intake. We'll have another video on this probably specifically, but you should be seasoning big game meat, and that is the only way you should be feeding your CORES. When you come into Red Dead Online, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you can do. There's going to be all kinds of food you can buy in the catalog. There's going to be all kinds of cigarettes and all stuff that you're going to be like, wait, do I need this? Do I need that? What do I buy? And it's really easy to waste a ton of money in the catalog and then just run to your camp and open your lockbox and be like, wow, I've got 187 canned pineapples, or I don't know what the max is on those, but still, you get what I'm saying. You can waste a lot of money on canned food, and that might seem like a good option if you're a new player. And so the reason you want to season big game meat and eat it, and only eat that, is because if you season big game meat, and I guess I should go into seasoning a tiny bit, you can find herbs all over the map in Red Dead Online. Like I said, there's going to be an entire separate video, but I feel like we need to get this out of the way at the front of this. You can season big game meat with either oregano, thyme, to create minty big game, oregano big game, or thyme big game. It will literally fortify your core. Now, fortification is when your core turns gold. So it's when it's fully tapped up and then you add a little extra something on there, that is when it turns gold. You can only get a core fortified by using something that fortifies it. So if you're all filled on your CORES and you just keep eating food, all your character's gonna do is get fatter. But if you're trying to avoid getting fat in Red Dead Online, because that's still a bug for some reason, just eat big game meat and you will be fine. Now, with that gigantic piece out of the way, we're gonna jump in to health CORES. So health CORES are really interesting because I think they're probably the easiest one to get a grip on in the game. After you understand the health core, you're pretty much going to be in a good spot for the rest of them. Now, like the rest of these, this does have a leveling system to it, so you are going to have to level up the core, and the more you level up the core, the more of the core you're able to fill. At the beginning, you're barely able to fill any of it, and at the end, you're going to work towards doing this. Now, how do you work towards leveling up your health core? Kind of a little counterintuitive, because you'd think maybe you got to go into PvP and like die or something a lot. That's not the case. What you're going to want to do is actually hunt and fish. Now, you don't want to hunt in general. Fishing, you only have one way to go about. I mean, unless you're dynamite fishing, which I actually don't know if that works. Comment below if dynamite fishing increases your health core. I'd be shocked if it did, but it might. So yeah, bow hunting is my favorite way because it's a way that you can earn money. You can follow some videos here on YouTube that have really good paths, or you can wait alternatively until my video comes out on that, which is going to be really good. But regardless, there's definitely content to tell you exactly which way to ride and find all the best animals, etc., etc. However, it is a nice way to level up your health core and make money at the same time. And for newer players, it's really overlooked. Everybody goes and kills a few deer or something, but actually kind of grinding that out as if it's PvP to raise your health core before you try to step into PvP is a lot more helpful than just trying to jump into PvP with a limited health core, at least in my opinion. So the health core is affected in a number of ways. There's a hot and cold system in Red Dead. Basically, if you're in an area that looks hot, you should probably be wearing less clothes. If you're in an area that looks cold, you should probably have a coat on. And if you don't, those things will affect you. I mean, imagining trying to like do some physical labor out in the snow with no jacket on. It's not gonna work that well. Imagine also doing the same thing in Mexico with a big old coat on like you're in the snow. It's gonna be very hard for you as a person. Your character in Red Dead Online is the same way. There's more nuance to it, but that's a good way to think about it. If you're in the desert, take your shirt off. If you're in the mountains, put a shirt on. That's kind of how it goes. Now, the thing about the health core that's interesting is that it drains when hit with any attack at all. It may not be a lot, it may be a little bit, it may be a ton, it may be completely, but that is the only way that your health core is actually going to get damaged, is if you are hit with some sort of attack. If you are keeping your cores all non-red, so red is when you need to basically cater to that core. It's the same way, I feel like in most games, if you've got no health, you need to heal up, you know what I mean? If your health bar is red, you need to fill. It's the same thing in Red Dead Online. That's a pretty basic gaming technique, but I do feel like it's worth noting here. If you see red pretty much at any time, fix it. And that is basically going to be it for the health core. It's pretty self-explanatory. You keep it maintained, you keep it full, you eat big game meat, and it's pretty much a no-brainer. Now, we're gonna move on to stamina. And stamina, I've seen a lot of people be confused by. I think a lot of people just think it's running, and it's definitely not. Everything you do in the game consumes stamina. Every time your character moves, whether it be running, swimming, fighting, holding or tapping A and B, diving, even holding a bow back, all these kind of things drain your stamina. Maybe by a tiny bit, maybe by a lot, and I feel like that's definitely overlooked. Stamina to me is the #1 core to take care of. I know Deadeye is really useful, and I know health is obviously how you stay alive, but for me, stamina is really slept on. I don't think even people notice that you only win or lose fights based on your stamina core. People really think it's based on your health, because if you get punched in the head, you're gonna die, but in reality, you can land more punches faster and keep going, even when you're like kind of wobbled, when you've got a full stamina core, versus when you've got a a depleted stamina core, the fight's over, the other person has already won. So I mean, if you're an avid fist fighter per se, or if you want to get in some fight clubs in Red Dead Online, you're really gonna want to look to maintain your stamina core. Now, like I said, correlates with the health core, so that when you eat food, it goes up depending on, and you'll see when you're in game, there's different nutritional values that all the foods have. However, if you go for big game meat like we talked about earlier, and you put the right kind of seasoning on it, it'll fortify your stamina core, or it'll just fill it all the way to the top. But regardless, definitely only eat big game meat. Now you might be saying, Pineapple, how do I level this up? All right, you've been talking it up. I need it. I need my stamina full. How do I do that? Well, it's actually super simple, but it's really boring. You can either go in PvP and sprint everywhere, but it's a kind of bad habit to get into, sprinting like that, unless you're somebody who likes to do like knife only or tomahawk only, things like that. I personally do enjoy those kind of things. I was somebody who ran around with a tactical knife in Modern Warfare 2, so it's just kind of where I feel comfortable playing. However, it's not like if you watch somebody like Hazard, he sprints, but he does not sprint all the time, and so it's not the best thing in the world to get into that habit. The easy way to do it is to set up a camp and then run in circles around your camp, and you'll notice it actually starts to tick up a lot faster than you'll think, and it's really, really easy to do, although it is pretty boring. Normally, I don't recommend things that you have to kind of not AFK, but like have something else in your life going on, or else it's gonna bore you to pieces. I don't generally recommend things like that. However, in this case, I will, because it is just the fastest way to level up your stamina core, and I do think the stamina core is probably the most useful core. All right, cowpokes, we've finally made it to the last one, and last but not least by any means is Deadeye. So Deadeye is something that is totally unique to the Red Dead franchise, and if you're unfamiliar, if you're picking up the game for the first time, something like that, it is probably the one that's gonna weird you out the most, because health and stamina, those are kind of general things, right? You've seen those in other games. You've seen your characters get tired. You've had to not pull a bow back because your guy everyone's had those kind of issues in other games before. But Deadeye is its own thing, and even if you're somebody who's coming over from the story mode and maybe you just don't use Deadeye, you definitely need to be using it, at least in some capacity, because if you're not, you're definitely entirely missing out. Now, there is a number of ability card combinations, from ones that are specifically for hunting to ones that make it so that you can just regen health by clicking a button, almost like you've got a med pack on you at all times, in a sense. And so there's a lot of reasons to use this. However, those are going to be in the ability card video. I don't have time to delve into that here, but in general, your Deadeye ability in Red Dead Online is basically what makes you special in Red Dead Online, if that makes sense. So anything that your guy can do that's kind of inhuman is all linked to Deadeye. So whether it's, you know, like I said, magically regenerating your health core, whether it's landing shots outside of the weapon ability, you know, like all kinds of stuff, like marking multiple targets and then pressing one button to shoot them all. There's a number of uses for it, but in general, it's all of the extra stuff that your character can do, either to help you or, you know, basically I think only to help you in Red Dead Online. So there's a ton of uses for it, but it's got some weird quirks. So it pretty much, aside from some ability cards, only drains when it's activated. So it's something that you're going to have to actively fill up by headshotting things, and then you can use it depending on, you know, whatever your preferred loadout is. And if you don't know what your preferred loadout is, for now I'm gonna have to defer to some other YouTube channels, but I will have a video explaining all of this very soon. But regardless, we have to talk about how to actually level up your Deadeye, because this is probably one of the ones that gets slept on as far as leveling up. As like a lot of people think you just have to headshot things to level up. That's not the case. Now, the easiest way to level up your Deadeye is by hunting and skinning birds. It is super easy. All you've got to do is head to Lemoyne, go a little bit north of Lemoyne. That entire area is just packed with animals, and it's very easy to find quite a few flying animals that you can kill. The Last Deadeye I know has some great videos on different geese hideouts, etc. And those are going to be where I'm going to recommend you guys go, like I said, because it's very easy to go there and level up your Deadeye, and it's honestly the best way to level up your Deadeye. Just head out into Lemoyne, hunt, you'll make some extra money, and you'll be leveling up your skill. And then once you've got all these skills, level 7, 8, something like that, you know, high enough to where you're not quite on the beginner end of the spectrum, then I would recommend hopping into PvP, because then you can kind of tackle all of these at the same time. Especially if you like to use a bow, you'll be able to get health, stamina, and Deadeye almost in the same swoop, because you can run up and shoot somebody with a bow in the head, and then you'll get all of those bonuses. So it's very nice, but like I said, you do have to put in the groundwork initially to get there. But I hope this video did help out some of you guys. I was gonna split this into like health, stamina, and Deadeye, but I figured it would be better just to group it into one video. I know it was a long haul, so thank you guys for everybody that stayed through it. Hopefully I have helped you out in your new quest in Red Dead Online. Welcome to the game. Thank you guys for choosing me to watch, and I will see you guys very soon with a brand new Red Dead Online video. Peace.